To record. So here we go.
So hey guys, give a big hand to Brad Brownell. Come on up.
I'll back it up here a little bit, and again, good to see you guys. You enjoying the food so far?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys pick? Hot mess.
Hot mess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definition of how you feel. That's what I'm telling you. So, and it's great to see you guys today as well. And I want to thank you for just being consistent and coming out and believing in what these breakfasts are all about empowering us, empowering you as real men. And what that stands for, of course, is respect. That's respect for yourself, respect for others. Of course, that ties into the subject for today as well. And then empathy. Where you're seeing and you're hearing, supporting the people that you love. That's your families. That's your marriages. That's your kids, your coworkers. That's even unlovable. That's including yourself. And again, tying in what we're talking about today. And then authenticity, being men of integrity, and then leadership, where you're taking yourself and you're taking others to higher levels, and you're adding value every single day in greater ways. This is what we're about, and so I want to thank you for this opportunity, part of the team that served behind the scenes, but to be able to do this, and thank you for the introduction, Abe, as well. And as he said, we go way back, over 20 years, and so I really never know what he's going to say when I come up here, and, but it's all good. But what he didn't say as well, some of you may know this about me, I wear this with pride, that I am also the whitest brown man that you've ever met. And in fact, this Halloween, I dressed up as a white guy. As a brown man. For Halloween, I went to a party, I painted myself all white in the face, and so I figured if they don't let me know, I might be in prison, but if our Prime Minister can be blackface, well, then I can be whiteface. Right, guys? So, but, that's right, that's right. So I'll just show you some pictures later. But seriously, I am that whitest brown man, and I don't like spicy food. That's why I didn't get the hot mess. And believe it or not, Abe does dance a little bit better than me, but you may not want to see that.
No.
However, I was adopted right from birth with my twin brother. I do have a twin. I've got 4 siblings on my adopted side. I got 8 on the other side, biological side. And we're adopted right from birth, and so where that comes from is I was adopted to the whitest community, whitest family, and I'm a very multicultural man, very diverse because of it. But currently speaking, I'm married to my amazing wife. David mentioned about 1.5 years ago, I got married, my amazing wife. I got 2 beautiful girls as well, teenage girls, by the way, and so you know what that means, guys. And I'm in a house full of women, and that means they all have their time off, and they can be in sync, and I really have no idea when they are, because it feels like it's all the time. And it's a moving target 24/7. But this is why I need to come to these breakfasts, so I can be with you guys. And I'm truly blessed by God with my family. They're amazing. I love being a husband. I love being a father. I'm also a spiritual and personal coach. Different hats, have been for over 20 years. And I have worked with men from every background that you can think of over the years. Right from dealing with helping people with their basic life decisions and goals, right to addictions, right to marriage, to the families and growth, etc. The list goes on. But helping them to champion, helping them to overcome their insecurities, their habits, their baggage, their failures, as well as guiding them in their dreams, guiding them in their goals, guiding them in their relationships. But the most important relationship of all is the relationship with themselves, relationship with yourself. The most important one, because that's really all you have power over when it comes to succeeding in life. And every one of you here are succeeding in life. That's why you're here in this moment. You have been succeeding, you are succeeding, and you will continue to succeed in life. But the question I want to ask you is, are you succeeding what matters most as real men? What matters most and what lasts beyond you? Or are you succeeding on driving on the side road of self-sabotage? And some of you may know my story of recent years, some of you may not. But I feel like I've lived 2 lifetimes in under 1 decade. And in my life, in the past decade, my 30s, things were going seemingly quite fine in life and career and family. When simultaneously, all at once, I got blindsided in my previous marriage, and that came to an end. And at the same time, Then I became a single dad of my girls, at the time a little younger, and I was in full guardianship and care of those girls 24/7. I still am in full care of those girls as well. At the exact same time, my oldest daughter was being diagnosed with a disease, and we didn't know what it was at the time, and it was a very, very hard time. Sometimes I have to carry her just to go to the bathroom. The symptoms are very strong, and we've spent 2 years in the hospital every single week with her. Sometimes twice a week with other struggles, other appointments as well. She was taking about 20 pills a day. That's more than a lot of cancer patients take. And then at the same time, there's more, guys. At the same time, my dad was living in Ontario at the time, and that's where he is and was. He was dying very quickly. During COVID, of course, there was lockdown, and I wanted to see him and I couldn't. Flights got canceled, and that really sucked. And so the only way I could see my father was to see him through a video just like this, online, and then in person burying him in the grave. And that was the last time I got to see my dad. At the same time it was happening, I almost had a heart attack. Not just because of these things. My heart was diagnosed as enlarged. And so I went on leave during this whole time as well. And this was a very unsettling, very painful, very vulnerable time in my life, especially when your life is responsible for others. And it always is. It's always tied to someone else. Starting over, starting from scratch, with the oversights, luggage of my life, and the events that took place. But what helped me get through this, and what helped me serve men for over 20 years, goes back to some of that jokes I was making at the beginning about, my adoption and becoming the whitest brown man. And I'm grateful that I was adopted. I truly am. I'm grateful that I'm adopted. Being adopted put me in some great places with some great people in my world. But the environment that I grew up in was, let's just say, not too fun. I won't go into too many details on that, but and although my parents would say that they did their best, and as those parents would and aim to do that, the sabotage between my parents and the sabotage to my siblings and I was so strong, and it was unending, that all my siblings, all 4 of them, ran away from home. And when I went to school, I came up this way, and I wasn't going to go back. And my twin brother ended up in maximum security jail as a high school student, right when he went to high school, and to this day struggles at this very moment. The condemning, negative, humiliating language and narrative of my home created a ripple effect in all of us as kids. The impact on our sense of self was crippling. It was paralyzing, as you had to passively push through. And adopted or not, you and I here today walked in here with a history. We walked in here with a story of experiences that you had growing up, of an environment that you grew up in, of a talk or self-talk that you were around. Good, which is amazing, could be good, could be bad, could be a mix of all of that, and it blended it. But that can be adopted into our minds to sabotage you or to set you up for success, where it makes you or breaks you how you respond or you react in the life ahead of you. This is why I'm continually having conversations with my girls about the tone and the tact and the truth of what they say and how they say it about themselves and about those that are around them. Because around 50% of everything that we learn is from the ages of 1 to 5 or 1 to 7. And that's not your IQ, that's your EQ, that's your sense of being and sense of worth and how you feel about yourself. That's from the ages of 1 to 5. And being emotionally decisive beings, when our sense of self faces sabotage, you and I have a choice to make in that moment. Sabotage simply means this. It means to destroy. It means to damage. It means to demoralize. It means to destabilize. It means to divide, disrupt, or obstruct. Not too pleasant of a description, but that's what it means. And when you and I face life every single day, we have a choice to listen to the negative lies and labels of life and of our past, or to know the truth of what you do, of what you have, and what you experience does not define you. That your success, man, does not define you, that your failure does not define you, that someone else's success or experience failure doesn't define you either. How was I able to not just get through the upbringing that I came through, as well as the hell that I went through in recent years, and not just get through it, but to grow and give back? I'll leave you with three very simple keys to help you overcome the implications of self-sabotage.
Are you ready for this?
Are you ready for
This
this?
doesn't matter if you're having doubts.
This doesn't matter if you're having doubts about something right now in your life, you're making a decision, you're negative thoughts, you're battling,
feeling good.
or you're not feeling good enough.
Lack of confidence.
There's lack of confidence in you're facing,
the
or
pressure
the pressure to have and be something.
And so the first one.
And so the first one is this.
And these are simple.
These are simple to remember. Beat the problem,
not yourself.
not yourself.
Beat the
Beat
problem,
the problem,
not yourself.
not yourself.
What does this mean?
What does this mean?
Well, how many of you
ever stumbled or fumbled,
fallen or failed in life?
failed in life?
Okay, some
Some of you, most of you, the rest of you failed at answering that question.
We all have.
We all have, listen,
You know, the first thing
that we do is to harden ourselves.
That's
That's often our default, we harden ourselves.
And we
beat ourselves versus the problem.
And then we wrestle with it,
Because at the core of who we are, we're wired to be protectors, to be providers, to love and to serve and lead well. We truly want to do that.
But how often
are you sabotaging yourself, entertaining the negative,
and beating
yourself up instead of the issue that's at hand, and putting your energy into that?
Are you following what I'm
Are
saying?
you following what I'm saying?
You know, I say to my kids
often,
when you do something
when you do something wrong, whether it be morally wrong or simply just incorrect, it's not a moral implication to it, but it's simply incorrect.
You can feel
sad,
you can feel
mad, you can feel bad, or you can feel glad. Sad meaning that there's a conviction to something that's morally wrong or sin, or selfish or hurtful to someone else, but it leads you to make things right. Mad meaning that there was an unjust moment and you fight for what is right. But then what happens often is that we feel bad. And that's when you turn the attention to yourself and not onto the situation in self-pity, in shame, in victimizing and rationalizing and sabotage, and you beat yourself up. And that's where a lot of people park themselves, a lot of men park themselves. You don't want to blur up those three things. And always feel glad and grateful for the gift of your life and the lessons and the blessing that is. So beat the problem and not yourself. And then the second one is this, is express, don't suppress. Express, don't suppress. This means don't stuff it all down. We're stuffing food down right now. I was just on a cruise, stuffing as much food as I could down. It was awesome. And but don't stuff it all down. Listen, contrary to popular belief as men, and the joke was always, men have two feelings. It's called hunger, it's called sex. We have more feelings than that. But many of you carry a voice, a silenced voice of your true self in this very moment due to self-sabotage or the sabotage of life's events or what someone else has said to you in your past. Your feelings matter. Your voice matters, man. And I know the culture likes to silence it, likes to sabotage it and strip it down. Equal rights does not mean equal roles and functions. I recently sat with a fireman who told me that a lot of the suicide notes that he sees and that they receive when it comes to men, and men are way up there when it comes to suicide, is that they actually just don't know their role and their purpose anymore. And what's the point? Because they don't have a defined function and purpose anymore because of how society has emasculated that in us. You see, if you don't express in healthy, safe ways, with healthy and safe people in a place just like this, you will regress in yourself, and you're going to push through, and you're going to make it through, but you may not make your mark, and the mark you're made to make. I know what it's like to not be able to express myself growing up, to not be heard, to be beaten down, and to have to figure things out regardless. I know what that does in future relationships where you can be unreadable even if you're a good person. And the disconnect that it creates with others, not the lack of care, generosity, and hard work that you put in, the disconnect of your heart and who you are, and that disconnect that it creates with others and with yourself. And then I have seen this and watched this too many times in relationships that fall apart due to this very thing, the self-sabotage, or they get stuck, even if their external world is soaring, even if their work is taking off. So express and don't suppress, because that's self-sabotage. And then the final key for you here is this: is talk it out, don't take it out. Talk it out, don't take it out. This means that if you don't talk out your heart and you don't talk out your mind in an authentic, healthy way, I promise you this, man, and I guarantee the equation is you will take it out in some way, somehow. First, on someone, and often it's projected on those who are closest to us, our loved ones, leaving hurt, or on something leaving damage. You know, for me as a spiritual person of faith, I first talk it out this way before I talk it out this way. And the key is that when you're talking it out, you're not talking it out with judgment, you're not talking it out with a bias, or with emotions going into a yellow or red zone. But you talk it out in a safe relationship, accountability, community just like this, and where you're encouraged in your heart, where you are not sabotaged, where your best will be seen and pulled out of you, where your potential will be the focus and not your problems, and where your future is actually cheered on, and now your failures condemned in your life, and your self-worth is actually seen and not sabotaged. And as men, it is our tendency to withdraw. Our tendency to isolate. It's our tendency to not connect and to be tough as men and push through and plow through. And the most common statement when used would ask, how are you? And maybe you answered this way today when you came in. How are you? Common statement is, I'm good. I'm good. And I'm busy. And I'm busy. I'm good. I'm good. And I'm busy. And I'm busy. And that's about the extent of the conversation. We put on that face, we keep pushing through. But what if we took the time to do these three keys mentioned here today and practice them? Where you beat the problem. You don't beat yourself. Where you express. And you don't suppress. And you talk it out. And you take it out. Imagine how your life will turn out. And imagine how it will flourish even more. And the difference that your life is making will continue to make. So be encouraged, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'll give it back to you.
Hey, that's great. That was good. Hey, not bad for a white guy. So hope that that resonated with you. Just from where you're sitting, anyone have a takeaway that really spoke to you? Just kind of shout it out. Anyone here? What Brad talked about.
Bringing it in though, about the express don't repress.
Okay.
I find that a lot of the times, like I can't express how I actually want to emote and feel.
Yeah.
And then you repress it down, and then that just is it's a pit in your stomach.
Right.
And it just sticks there. So that resonated really well. Thank you.
Well, you're probably the only dude in the room who's ever done that, Travis. Just joking. I mean, that's pretty common for guys, right? It really, really is. I mean, most ladies don't have a problem with that. Let's be honest. You know, if they're thinking it or feeling it, you know it. But you know, it's even if you don't want to know, you're going to get that message. But I think for a lot of guys, we need that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of the same thing as him.
Okay.
Just because like I bottle up my emotions a lot.
Yeah.
And for example, like a couple weeks ago, I ended up taking out my mom and I felt awful about it.
Right.
After, and it ruins my relationships. You know, it just really affects people. So like just hearing that really helps, I guess, but in some sense.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's great. That is right there. That's a demonstration of a real man right there. Just to own it and to say, hey, you know, I want to change. I don't want to be that guy, right? And thank you for that. Mac.
That your past is not a death sentence.
Okay.
And you know, even if it was yesterday, a year ago, at the start of your life, you can always readapt to your new life ahead, and you know, what happened to you doesn't need to stay.
Right.
To change.
Right on. Thank you. We'll go to Eddie and then to Denny.
Yeah, thank you. I think I want to share my own personal experience about when I went through, for about 10 years ago, I was going through my own personal challenges and I didn't know how to express myself and to bring it out. And I found another alternative how to feel good about my own self and environment, and I started drinking.
Okay.
And that nearly killed me.
Okay.
Because I didn't have anywhere to express that and to make sure those things that are weighing me down come out, right, and to figure out the solutions to address my own weakness. I ended up, and I had the money. So to get alcohol was not a problem. And my son, unfortunately, saw the depth to which I went. See your dad so drunk at home, lying in a pool of maybe vomit and it's not a good sight.
Sure.
And so I had to apologize to him and said, son, I'm a recovered man.
Yeah.
trying to learn from my own mistakes so that you don't do the same.
Right on. That's
And those
awesome.
are some of the things that we
love
women sometimes we feel that I'm not going to express it, I'm going to keep it. But in the moment that you're trying to keep it, you might find some leeway where you feel comfortable, and that will be your distraction.
So good. Thank you.
And so it's good to express and find somebody you can trust and have some time to chat. And thank you, Pastor, for giving me that room for, and actually, the real men breakfast, and my good friend Henry invited me once when I moved to Calgary, and that really changed my life around.
Love that.
Yeah.
So good, man. And thank you for your honesty. That's great, especially with your son sitting right there. And we love your son. He's awesome. We really do. So, Danny, go ahead real quick, my friend. I'll just give you the mic if you can be quick for the audience online.
Yeah, this was just making me think about my sales team, because I run a sales team at the dealership, and a lot of them get upset about things, you know, if their deal goes sideways and, you know, a customer gets upset and stuff like that. And I try to make it a safe place for them to express it. And even yesterday, I ran into one of my experienced sales staff. He was very upset in our meeting. He wanted to talk about it, and we were in the tower, and he was venting and letting it out, and he was extremely upset about it. And I was just hearing him out. So it just reminded me of my dealership, and, you know, that it's good to make a safe space for that. So this is just kind of a reminder for me. So I do appreciate it, Brad. That was a good speech.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. Okay, guys, and thank you, all of you, for your shares. Really, at the end of the day, the goal here is not just to have a one-way conversation. And so it's nice when people share and talk about it, you know, and if you're struggling here today, guys, you're not all alone, right? That's the most important thing. I mean, it's not that we understand everything you're going through, but we've all got our stuff, and you're not some weirdo. And it's genuinely a place that's safe. That's a great word that you used, Danny. So our next speaker on the in the blue corner. I don't know. We need music or something, but is Levi Washington. And Levi is a young guy that I've been getting to know over the last, I'd say, 3, 4, or 5 months now. It's been awesome to see your growth and your journey. He speaks to a lot of men's issues on social media. And as you guys know, that's kind of a weird environment right now. You know, even when I was posting for this, some lady who I never hear from on LinkedIn, she's like, well, what's a real man? You know, I'm asking for my husband and my son. And so, you know, very respectfully, I answered in the comments, and I never heard back from her, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, well, you really are in the middle of a political sort of environment for men right now. But I told her that, you know, we really believe that a real man is a man who's respectful, that he respects himself, that he's empathetic, that he's authentic, and that he operates from a place of servant leadership. And those are some of the things I'm seeing modeled in you, Levi. So why don't you give Levi a big hand, everybody.
Thank you, Abe. Now, first of all, I really related to you, when you were talking about how you go this way, first before you go this way. It's really important to me, and I actually found that I needed to go this way as well. So I'm a writer by trade, and so I'm far more comfortable if I could just replace this microphone with a pen. And I could just write something down and just hand out flyers to you guys so you can read it. Because this is way outside of my comfort zone. I've never really liked heights very much either. And I'm glad we're not on top of this here, because this is like, the stage is kind of like my idea of a cliff. Abe has just been Spartan kicking me off for the last few months. I've been really grateful for that. But yeah, I don't like heights. I never have. Now I've pushed myself to overcome my fear. Rock climbed, I like hiking. I went to the amusement park, went on that big drop zone. I went to the Calgary Tower, jumped up the glass. But I still don't really enjoy heights. They're not fun. And I find that anytime I'm close to an edge of a cliff, my mind just starts to give me these fear signals. It's gonna tell me things like, you're gonna trip and fall. I've had tripped and fallen for years. I'm gonna trip and fall right now, and I'm gonna go 8 feet over that edge. Or the wind's gonna pick up, it's gonna be 100 kilometers an hour, pick me up off the ground and throw me over the edge. Like, this is completely irrational. But it's very natural. And that is what self-sabotage really is. Right? It's just trying to keep us safe from harm. And not all cliffs in our lives are physical. So if we're gonna talk about solutions to self-sabotage, we do have to kind of go into a diagnosis or a definition, or else you can't really get the right prescription. So self-sabotage it involves engaging in behaviors or thought patterns that undermine our success and well-being. It can manifest as procrastination, negative self-talk, or engaging in self-destructive habits and avoidance of responsibility. It is a destructive, exhausting, and overwhelming cycle that leaves us feeling helpless and stuck. So now that we have a diagnosis, is there a cure? Do you have to eat a pine cone and a glass of warm milk and what are the cheese curds? You eat that every morning and do burpees until you puke for a week, and that's how you know? No, right? But we could also go on Wikipedia or Google and we could search up how to overcome self-sabotage, and they're going to come back with the cookie cutter steps like recognize and acknowledge the destructive behaviors and their triggers, have self-compassion and self-acceptance, set small realistic goals and tally up some wins, develop positive daily habits, and seek help and build a positive support network. And guess what? All of these are the truth, right? It's really that simple. And I could come up here and expand on some of these points, and you'll nod your head in agreement, and then you'll clap when I'm done. But at the end of the day, you probably don't even remember that list right now, right? You're gonna come up here and you're just gonna forget that. So sometimes it's really about how do we plant a seed into fertile soil. And that's gonna come down to, you're not gonna remember what I say, but you're gonna remember about how what I say makes you feel. So that's what we're gonna try to do today. So I've personally been quite notorious for not quite finishing things. That's kind of how I start a lot of things, but I don't quite finish them. And I procrastinate things to the very last minute. I'm crippled by, for example, a fear of failure, where I've only put in about 80% effort. That's kind of my thing. I kind of go, I wrestle my laurels a lot. So I put in 80% because then I can justify failing, because I never really tried, so I didn't really fail. Or I also am crippled by a fear of success, because what does success actually mean? Because success might actually take me out of where I am comfortable or out of what I know. Because if I'm good at this, if I do well at this, it's going to require more of me. It's going to require more responsibility, more work, more effort. And that might change some of my relationships. I might have to cut off some friendships. I might have to cut off some relationships. I might have to let go of some of the old ways of being. I'm going to have to reinvent myself and look at myself in a new way that is very uncomfortable. So it's actually better for me to fail at these things so I can stay where I'm at, stay where I know where I am, stay here and not on the edge of the cliff, right? So I find that I also one of the ways that I also procrastinate would be I get on the treadmill and I run and I run and I run and I run. Get sweaty, like I feel like I'm working really hard. And I can convince other people that I'm working hard and that I'm ambitious and I'm doing all of these things. And I'm saying that I want to run to this destination, but I'm always just running on a treadmill. So I'm actually not investing myself in anything that really moves the needle forward. So I'm just treading water and not going. I think a lot of us do that as well. And I make excuses like, oh, well, I work a full-time job with my family, I work 50+ hours a week, and I don't have time. I'm over here creating content. So one thing that I've been trying to work on is my second book. I've been putting that off. I get sucked into creating content online instead. Right. And that's not necessarily bad. That's also productive. That's also part of my job. That's also part of what I do. But it's not actually moving me towards what I am saying that I want to. And that's the way I'm self-sabotaging. I'm making myself busy. I'm doing all this productive stuff. I'm doing stuff that I'm doing. I'm not actually moving towards what I say that I want to do. So I like analogies. Analogies make sense. So I'm going to share one of my favorite ones with you. I think that life is like a grocery store. And all of us are pushing. This cart represents our identities. Okay. And our cards are filled with all of our experiences, good, bad, and ugly. And they're all the things that we have been buying into. And it really starts with who are the first people to put things in your card. Our cards aren't full of the things that we've been putting in there. Like you were saying, the first few years of our life. Who was putting stuff in that card? Because you weren't choosing anything then. Your mom was putting stuff in your card. Your dad was putting stuff in your card. Like your siblings, who is putting these things in your card? And it's not. Nobody else has to pay for it, but you. You're the one who has to go to the checkout and pay for these things. You didn't put those in there. Right? And so some of us have come to the place of self-awareness to the level where we have looked in that cart and we don't like what we see. And all of us have been to the grocery store where we've felt judged or we have judged based on what we see in other people's carts, right? I think we've all done that. And so we see this, and we see that, oh, look at all this garbage, look at all this unhealthy stuff that is in my cart. And so what do? We go over to the self-help aisle and we're like, oh yeah, gym membership, get that money, whatever it is to kind of pile up on top of the garbage, cover it up so that it looks good on the outside for everybody else. But then you run into obstacles in life where you run into somebody else's shopping cart and all that stuff that you've been piling up on top, boom, all falls off. And what is revealed? Those true colors. And that's, I think a lot of us, that's how we self-sabotage. We do all of these things, but we haven't actually taken care of the root of the issue. We haven't gone in and removed things that are not supposed to be there. The things that we don't want to have in our heart, the things that we didn't put there in the first place. Those things are very expensive and they take up a lot of space. And that's why we are energetically bankrupt, many of us. That's why we can't take on some of these new things. We don't have space for some of these things because we actually have to go in and feel like, yeah, that thing that my dad put there, that doesn't belong to me. That's not mine to carry. I need to remove that. Those words, those actions, that's not about me, that was about him. Okay, and until you do that, you won't be able to take on anything. You won't be able to break those generational chains. So what is taking up space in your cart? If you have a pen and paper, or if you have your phone, I think it would be good for you right now to, or I'd invite you to, think about something that you have been struggling to do, something that you feel like you can't do. And I want you to write down that first self-limiting or negative self-talk statement that plays in your head when you're thinking about this thing. What is that negative I am statement that plays in your mind when you come up to that cliff in your life? And now once you've got that statement, that feeling, that thought in your mind, I want you to go underneath that and I want you to write the exact opposite of it. So if you said, I'm a loser, write down I'm a winner underneath. And then I want you to cross out the first thing you wrote because that is a lie. And you're left with the truth now of who you really are. You are a winner, but you don't recognize that. You look at that and it feels uncomfortable. Like, no, that can't be who I am. That's not me. That's because you've been given one of those funny mirrors. They go like a clown mirror that distorts the way that you view yourself. You were given that by your experiences. And that's what you've been looking at your whole life. This is what I look like. And that's what you believe you look like. And now you've seen this new quote, that represents who you really are. And it looks weird because it's like you're looking at your reflection for the first time in a real mirror. You're like, that can't be me. That's not me. I'm not a winner. Because you've been filtering your whole life through a fake lens, a false lens, a lens of lies. And it's going to take some time to get used to this real version of you. And it's going to be scary. It's going to be revealing because you're going to see some, maybe I don't really like how that looks. Or you're going to have to come to terms with who you really are. You're going to have to come to terms with real reflection. Now, I want you to invite this new mantra into your daily life, this new I am state. And I want you to use confirmation bias visualization in order to actually implement it into your mind. Because really, we are more like computers and robots pretending to have a human experience. And whatever filter you put your keywords in, so if you type into your Google processor, I am, if you type in I am a loser, now every single thing that you do in your life will be filtered through that keyword. It will look for anything that's like, oh yeah, that's the keyword, that's the keyword, I'm a loser, because of this, I'm a loser, because of that. And that's how you're filtering your life. That's the perspective that you're seeing your life through. And you have to change that. You're gonna take this new statement and you put it on the background of your phone, or write it on your bathroom mirror. And you have to say it to yourself, you have to see it, you have to visualize it, because it actually you'll start to see it. It's the same thing, like you go through a bad breakup and all of a sudden start to see that girl's car everywhere. You never even knew that many people own that car, but now it's everywhere. And that's the same thing that will happen if you start to use the right statements on yourself, on your mind. You start to see the reasons. Oh yeah, look, I did that. I'm a winner. I did that. Oh yeah, look, I am courageous. Oh yeah, I am brave in all these small ways. And you start to process your world through a different lens. That is going to help massively. So tell you a quick story. When I was in my late teens, just out of high school, I went to my parents' cabin in the summertime. We went on the boat and we went over to go cliff jumping. I don't like heights, but there was a girl there. But I crushed on. So yeah. I'll jump off anything. But so we get up to this cliff and I get up to the edge of it, and I swear I froze so solid. I could not move. I went back 10 feet from the edge and I sat down. I watched everybody else jump. All the girls jumped, everybody jumped, except me. I sat there and they tried to coax me, they tried to encourage me, they teased me, of course. And it came time to make a choice. Now I have a choice. You either have to pick up your shame and go face everybody down, walk back down, go back to the boat, go back to the cabin, or you jump to your imminent demise. And in that moment, my reward outweighed the risk. Actually more painful for me to walk back down than it was for me to die. I didn't die. I'm here. But I jumped. And I think that is something that's also important to understand when it comes to self-sabotage. If you have to understand the pain versus the pleasure, you have to understand the risk versus the reward. Because often we wait until it becomes so painful. So painful. That's when we finally make that setback. We wait for the divorce papers, we wait for the diagnosis, we wait for everything to fall apart, we wait till there's nothing left within us, and then we finally make that move. Right? So identify what is your cliff? Take out your writing utensils once again and write down what that cliff is. Identify and diagnose it. What is that thing that you've been wanting to do and you can't seem to do it? And I invite you to do a quick meditation with me, because I really love meditation because it helps visualize. It really helps go into that space. If you are comfortable with it, I invite you to close your eyes and I want you to think about that. Think about that thing that you're struggling with. That question you've been avoiding, that habit you refuse to start, that class that you want to take. Close your eyes and imagine yourself going through it. You can feel that tension rising, your emotional state beginning to change. You're wanting to shut off. You feel the fear, the shame, the frustration, the anxiety, the negative self-talk beginning to reach into your mind. And it's scary. It must be hard for you to live like this with the pressure, the expectations, and the anger, with the guilt and the shame trying to pull your head beneath the waves. You've been fighting your whole life. You've been fighting for a long time. And no one really understands how hard it is for you. No one else can. So I invite you to acknowledge those emotions. You don't have to fight them. In fact, you can thank them because they've been just doing the job to try to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you in the fight. But you don't have to fight right now. You can simply allow these emotions and this energy to pass through you. You can put your shield down. You can lay your burdens down. And you can let go. There's no judgment here, just brotherhood in this room. We all struggle, and that is okay. Open up your eyes again. So once again, the pain outweighs the pleasure. We're programmed to avoid pain. We're programmed to survive. If I were to give you a coin toss chance, and I said, heads, you get $1 million. Tails, you lose everything you have. I don't think any of you in this room will take that. Well, unless you're at a point where you have nothing left to lose. If you give that coin toss to somebody who has nothing, no home, no income, nothing, he's gonna take that coin toss 100% of the time. Why? Because the pain versus the pleasure ratio, the risk versus the reward ratio. So how do we change that? How do we go into changing our perspective? Because it's like if you try to climb this mountain, you try to climb the wrong side of it, and you're just banging your head against the cliff face. But simply just moving your perspective over the next side of the mountain. Oh look, there's a path. And you can't climb it from where you're standing right here. But you can climb it if you just move over here. Right? And sometimes you just need to be around the right people who kind of show you the way. So for me, I had to start exploring my goals to my why ratio in order to change that risk to reward ratio. I had to dig deeper. So if you say that your goal is to look like Arnold, well, first of all, you're not Arnold, so it's not exactly that measurable or achievable. You're already choosing a goal that is destined to fail, and it's heavily based in external comparison. A better goal, more achievable. I want to be able to bench press 200 pounds. I want to lose them. That we can manage, that we can achieve, that's something that we can work with. So sometimes your goals that you are setting are your forms of self-sabotage. Right? Maybe like something like, oh, I love gym analogies because I used to work as a personal trainer, so they just kind of come off in my head. But for example, like if you say like, oh, it's really hard for me to do this thing with my body. It's not looking the way I want it to. I'm not getting the results as fast as I want. Let's change the goal. Why do we make the goal about consistency then? Your goal is actually just to show up to the gym 3 days a week. That's your goal. It's not about the results. It's about just showing up. And suddenly, now you're actually succeeding at this goal. You go to the gym 3 times. You are a success. You are a winner. And now that you do that enough times, and your body will start to change as a byproduct. But it's all just about what you are choosing, how you're choosing to see it. And, digging that why deeper is really going to help. So if I ask you, if I played it out with you, why do you want to change your body? Because I want to look good. Okay, great. That's good. Why? Because then I'll be more attractive and I will command more respect. Okay, attraction, respect. Great, awesome. What does that mean to you? What does that do for you? Well, I used to get bullied for being overweight as a kid, and I didn't think women found me attractive, and I want to look like someone people wouldn't mess with or see as weak. That makes sense. Why do you want that? Because I hate how weak and helpless I used to feel and sometimes still feel, and I never want to feel that way again. And I want to be someone who could protect others and is a good role model and someone that the people I love will be proud of. You see the difference between the guy who wants abs and biceps because he just wants to look good versus the guy who wants to work on his body because he wants the people that he loves to be proud of him. And he wants to protect the people that he loves. Who would you put your money on, and who's going to be more successful at their goal? Because that why is deeper. The deeper that you dig your foundation, the higher you can build your building, and you don't have to be afraid of it falling. So what is your why? Ask yourself that. Why am I doing this? Why do I want this? And that first question, that first answer that you give yourself, it's not the truth. Go deeper. It's not the truth. There's a deeper reason why. We have to think about why we're thinking about it and think about why. And that's kind of what coaches and therapists often do, is they help you get that deeper to what you really are after. Stop trimming the leaves of the weeds in your garden. You actually have to pull them up from the roots. Or else you just continue to chop that. It's coping mechanism. Cope. Stop coping and start changing. One of the whys for me was when I first got into it, like I did spoken word poetry, and I'd read it from my little piece of paper, and I would have to get, have a couple of drinks before I got up there, and it was very, very frightening. And when I first started trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone, I remember a few weeks later, there was a girl that I used to know, and she hit me up and she said, "Hey, I heard you sharing some of your story, and it's inspiring. I want to share mine. But I have to get my life right first." And she was able to escape the sex trafficking world, and she got herself sober. To this day, I think she first time around 4 years sober. She's 4 years sober. And I really, truly am proud to believe that I was one of the people that was able to plant a seed in her heart. It's now every time I get on the mic, I'm afraid to get up here and talk to you guys today, even, but is my fear more important than someone else's freedom? Like everybody knows the answer to that question. Is my fear more important than the freedom of someone else? No. So how can I self-sabotage that? Because my why becomes so deep, it's not about me. Because what happens is your fears start to get smaller when the picture starts to get bigger. And that's the best part, because each and every one of you in this room has a story that is meant to save a life. Every single one of you. Maybe it's not about getting up on a mic and spilling your guts. That's not for everybody. But your life is a story that is being told. There are people watching. It's not just about you and your body and your this and your that. People are watching. You are a story of hope. You are a story of redemption. You are a story of forgiveness. You are a story of perseverance. You are here to inspire the people. If you keep playing small, if you keep dimming your light and putting it under a bowl, if you do not tell your story and share your story, well, there's somebody else that needed it. Stop making it about yourself. And you can't see past your own nose. What will happen is life will come in at some point and it'll bust your nose, and that's the only way you'll be able to see past it. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for your nose to get broke. Man. Some of us wait too long, and that's why they say the graveyard is the wealthiest place on earth. There's so much potential, so many dreams, so many hopes. Just go to the grave. Doesn't have to. So yeah, I might still be afraid of heights, but I'm no longer afraid of my light. And I really hope that me coming up here and coming on this mic with you guys lit something in you today as well, and you'll be able to reflect that into your lives. Thank you.
That was great, man. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm ready to sit down.
He's ready to sit down. It's nerve-wracking, then I guess it looks in public speaking. That was great, honestly. So, a couple of guys, actually, let us know what resonated for you. Maybe Brad, do you want to grab this mic and just for our online friends, say, online guys, good to see you there. We haven't forgotten about you. So maybe just quickly let us know what spoke to you.
Really well done, Levi. I appreciate you sharing your story. Really resonated. One of the things you're talking about is when you're on that treadmill and you're just kind of running, you feel like you're busy, you're putting in work. But then after the run, you're nowhere different. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot. It's like, I heard this thing that says you have the option to put a lot of effort into something that leads to nothing, or just do nothing. You're better off doing nothing. I think a lot of people like to be busy. They like to, I want to learn this. They don't have a why. They just want to do it. So appreciate that. That's something that popped up in my mind. Something I reflect on a lot.
Thank you. Awesome. Anyone else? What spoke to you guys? Shy. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's also a question at the same time, but the grocery store analogy. Trying to take out the bad things. Do you ever feel sometimes you have to take out everything and start over? Can you only just take out one at a time?
Good question. I think you kind of have to take things as you're ready for them, because you won't be able to fully remove everything. I find sometimes if you just go and empty your cup, now your cup is empty and you're thirsty. And I found like when I empty myself too much, and I'm just like, and I become this empty cup. Now I'm walking around all filled with anything. And it's almost like we look to stimulating and numbing behaviors a lot of the time. So that's where you kind of like, oh, I look at all these awful things in my life, I'm taking them up, but now I'm empty and somebody needs to fill me. And that's when we turn to a lot of addictive behaviors, at least in my experience. So But yeah, it really is about, I think community is really helpful for that, because I did a lot of that in isolation. It's divide and conquer, so when I'm divided and I'm alone, that's when things get bad.
One more. Yeah, John.
I'll try to keep this short. There's a lot of here, right? I feel like, Brad's story, like, I think it's really sad how that's become a norm for a lot of us, is we go through the battles of our first marriage, and it's like, you know, it's devastating, you know? When that happened to me, I was very blessed that happened to me after I've been walking with God for, because it happened to me as I was driving to work, and I had a 3-hour drive. And I was like, you know, I was looking out of town, I was gonna be out of town, I was like, okay, when I'm done work, I'm just gonna go get drunk and do whatever and get it over with and start whatever's next, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously after a 3-hour drive and then being at work for a few hours and driving to the town of saying that, you know, I really had a lot of time to kind of press in and figure out what I wanted to do. And it's like, you know, I chose to grow in relationship with God, fix myself, and fix my relationship with my kids. And, you know, if that had happened a few years earlier in my life, I would have made a lot of different choices.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm very blessed that God allowed that to happen to me when I was starting to be in a relationship with him. And to Levi's like card analogy, I feel like as men, the one thing we do a lot is just hold it together and just hold it together.
Yep.
And, you know, for me, like when things really changed for me was when I was in the middle of a snowstorm driving up north where I was working, and I just, you know, all that stuff was just going through my head about life with my wife at the time, and you know, where I fell short as a father and all this other stuff. And in the middle of the snowstorm, I just pulled over and screamed. You know, I was like, and you know, like for me, like my experience at the time, I did pour myself out. I did pour everything out of me and look to God. You know, like honestly, like for me, I am saying that gets me through my everyday is that I am a son of the Almighty, and I'm here for a purpose, and my job is to figure out what my purpose is and serve my Father. You know, and it's like when you put it on your faith to lead you, it's a tough road. You know, like for me, it's been like 4 years, and it's still hard every day.
Yeah.
But when you walk with righteous men that help you stay in line and bring people into your life that help you pour life into you, and you know, have a strong relationship with God has really changed my life.
Right on. Okay, that's great. Well, guys, I appreciate that. And, you know, honestly, thanks to Levi, thanks to Brad, great talks, and thanks to all of you for being here today. I'm going to try not to talk too long, but, you know, even though I sort of inspired these breakfasts, I've never actually been a speaker. So I thought, well, it's about time after like 8 or 9 of them to share a little bit. And so I hope you're okay with it, but I want to talk about ending self-sabotage, because, you know, we can sort of explore this idea and you know, think about it, and we can sort of be nonchalant about ending self-sabotage, but I actually think that we need to get a bit violent about it. Because if there's anything I've discovered in my own life is that no one can sabotage me quite like I can sabotage me. And that is a choice that I can make every day of the week, and that's also a choice that I don't have to make. And so, you know, I'm not sure if you know some stats, but I'll give you a couple of statistics just because I want you to think about what's happening with men. Canadian men are about 3 times more likely to experience addiction and substance abuse than Canadian women. And this includes alcohol, cannabis, and opioids. And men, that's you know, you're all men. I mean, I haven't checked under the hood, but I'm just taking a look at you here today. You know, they are about 4 times more likely to end their own lives by suicide than women. And that's, I don't know about you, but that's kind of scary to me. And, you know, I share this picture here because it's always about our story. You know, at the end of the day, there's a story that you have, and that's a set of facts and events that have taken place in your life. And then there's a set of interpretations or stories that you tell yourself based on the facts and the events. And so I want you to think about it this way. It's kind of like all these things happen, and whatever they may be, some probably for you good, and some bad, and some maybe traumatic, and some triumphant. But the reality is that then we take those events and we begin to tell ourselves a story based on those events. And that's where actually we get this idea of self-sabotage, right? It's not so much what happened to you, because I can promise you whatever has happened to you, someone has experienced it far worse than you. right? It's really important that we understand that. No matter what you're walking through here today, I'm not trying to belittle what you've been through, not for 1 second. But if it's about, the Olympics of hard experiences, how many of you agree that there's always somebody who's gone a little bit further than you in that area? But the question isn't so much what has happened or not. The question is, what's the story that you're telling yourself based on what's happened? And that story can absolutely sabotage you or not. That story can absolutely devastate you or not. That story can absolutely empower you. It can fill you with strength. It can fill you with vitality. I'll tell you what, it can fill you with a sense that you are a conqueror. Or that same story can totally debilitate you. And the reason I share the picture on the screen, and I'm not going to go into all the details of my story, but there's my mom, my beautiful mother, and of course over here is my brother and I, and we were raised in an extremely abusive and poverty-filled environment. Now, you know what? Who cares? Like at the end of the day, I got my story, you got yours. But as a result of the story that we experienced, and as a result of the interpretation of that, my brother has done over a decade in prison in Canada. I'll tell you what, that's hard to do. You know what I'm saying? Like Canadians are very lenient when it comes to prison. And Canadians, often have to commit multiple crimes. Matter of fact, I know people with 40, 50 criminal convictions who have never spent more than a couple nights in jail. And so it gives you a sense of the scope as to kind of how we were raised and the path and the trajectory that both my brother and I were on. And I've never ended up in prison, not because I'm better than him, but because there was a difference in the story that I told myself. You see, there's always more to the story. And the story that you're telling yourself can absolutely sabotage you. It can destroy you. It can wreck you. Or the story that you're telling yourself can empower you. And that's why I think as men, we got to stop blaming radical feminists. We got to stop blaming the weirdos online. How many with? We got to stop thinking about all the crazy people, because would you agree there's always going to be a crazy person out there? And yeah, there's a narrative out there. And yeah, there's a war against boys. And yeah, it's very difficult for men to thrive. But at the end of the day, if you're strong from the inside out, there is no one who can take you down. I'm going to say that again, because some of you got to pay attention here. If you're strong from the inside out, there is no one who can take you down. And this really comes down to how it is you tell yourself a story that either empowers you or sabotages you. Look at the person beside you and say, you got this.
You got it. You got it.
Look at the person on the other side and say, no one can sabotage you. Really, really, really important. Now, it's not just the negative. No one also, imagine if we just crossed this word out. Imagine if we just said, no one can empower me like I can empower me. How many think that would be the shift that some of us need? Right? Because I'm not saying don't go to Tony Robbins conferences. I'm not saying don't have a coach and don't have a mentor or don't have a church or don't have all of those things. Don't have a mom. All of those things are great. But at the end of the day, you got the power to empower you. And so here's what I want to share with you today. I just want to share with you 4 simple things about ending self-sabotage. The first one, and this is so powerful for men, is that self-sabotage ends when self-worth begins.
Yeah.
Okay? If you love yourself, you will stop sabotaging yourself. That was the greatest realization for me. I kept looking at the patterns in my life and wondering, why am I hurting myself with bad behavior and addiction and stupidity? Am I the only guy who's been down that path before? And what I had to realize is it's not, oh, I'm a bad guy, or I'm just a dumbass, or I just can't seem to get my SHIT together. I had to realize that there's a problem when it comes to how I see me. Do I matter to me? Because I'll tell you what, I have a beautiful little daughter. She's at home right now. She's 8. She's going to be 9 this week. I would never sabotage her. As a matter of fact, I'd throw myself in front of a bus to make sure she was not sabotaged. How many dads in this room with kids know what I'm talking about? You would do the same. And it doesn't mean you're a hero. It means that you value that individual so much that you lay your life down for that person. So why is it that we do that for our kids? And we should, but we're not doing that for ourselves. You know, and I pull from a lot of different speakers, but one of the things I think about is, what's my price? Like, what am I worth? You know, what's the value that I have? You know, thousands of years ago, there was somebody called Buddha who said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, you are worth it. And I'll tell you, when men start devaluing themselves, the very next step is they begin to sabotage themselves. There's literally nothing else you can do. And I love this here. And you say, well, it's society devalues me, and I don't do great in school, and I don't make a lot of money, and Levi's got a better build than me, and so-and-so's better looking than me. Listen, none of that matters, because no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Now, this was Eleanor Roosevelt. She was the wife of FDR, one of the presidents of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, and she was in her time considered to be a radical feminist at the time when feminism actually mattered. I love these radical feminists now, right? As if feminism is needed in Canada in 2023, right? Our prime minister, what a knob. Do you know what I'm saying? Calling himself a feminist. I mean, what a loser. Dude, you've been a drama teacher too long, man, because every day is another day at the office for him. I'm not saying women shouldn't have rights, not at all. But I mean, that battle was fought and won back in the 1960s, friends. If you haven't been paying attention, like, you got to just read some economic data. You got to read some statistics. You know that 6 out of 10 people in university in Canada are women. Did you know that men have substance use issues 3 times that of women? Did you know that they commit suicide 4 times that of women? So stop talking to me about the victimization narrative for women. But back in this time, I'll tell you what, we're talking the 1930s. And you know what she told the women? She said, you know what, hey, the problem actually isn't everyone else oppressing you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So how many of you think it's time to stop giving your consent? Yeah. Like, I just want to invite you to consider that. Right? Have you been consenting to the devaluing of your worth? If that is you, number one, I've been there, but number 2, I beg you, please stop. Because I'll tell you what, you're worth it. You are so worth it. And if you could start to see that, you would change your behavior, and then you would become worth it. So I sat with a guy this week, and you could just tell how broken and beaten up he was in terms of his worth and value. And he said, but my behavior is horrible. And I said, you're worth it. And I said, he said, my behavior is horrible. And I said, but you're worth it. And he said, but my behavior is horrible. And you're worth it, I said. And then I said, here's the problem. Because you devalue yourself, your behavior actually is horrible. Which then means you aren't worth it. But if you could change your mindset, where the mind goes, the man follows. Your behavior will follow. So that's the first thing. I think that's the first thing that I want you to get. The second is that self-sabotage ends when self-discovery begins. So if the first thing that we got to do to end self-sabotage is we got to feel like we matter, I think the second thing we need is we need a sense of meaning. We need a sense of purpose. It is unbelievable how important a sense of purpose is to men. This is actually hardwired into all of us biologically, but the big advantage that women have, to be honest, and this has been very well documented in social sciences and in psychology, is that they actually give birth to children. How many know that? Have you noticed? Hate to break it to some of the weirdos out there, but men still can't do that, okay? So women have this wonderful exalted place. And I'll tell you what, the reason I'm pointing this out, it's really important for you to think about this, is because women from a biological perspective understand that no matter what else they do with career and relationships and family and life, that part of what they're meant to be doing is to give birth. Now, not every woman does, but the vast majority do. And there's an orientation towards relationships, to connection, to family. But men, we don't have that same biological imperative. You could actually deal with a whole bunch of women and not even think about it. And I'm not going to ask you how many of you have, but I think that probably some of you would have to say yes if I did ask the question. It's none of my business. But what happens to a man when he's untethered to his purpose is he actually becomes a man who hurts people. You see, if you don't know the purpose of a thing, you'll abuse it. I'm going to say it again. If you don't know the purpose of a thing, you will abuse it. And if you don't know the purpose for your own life, what will happen is you will abuse it. So here's the question. What is my purpose? Now, 43% of Canadians, this was Statistics Canada, They asked the question, do you have a sense of purpose? And they found that more than 4 out of 10 Canadian men feel no strong sense of meaning or purpose. Some of you think that's kind of scary. What do you think? Substance abuse? If you struggle with that, you think that could be tethered to a lack of purpose? What do you think? Maybe suicide? I mean, come on now. Can we have real talk here today? Real men's breakfast, right? I mean, it's amazing to think about this quote from Mark Twain. The 2 most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out what? Why? And I think to myself, we need that sense of purpose. I mean, Abraham Maslow, the one of the fathers of modern psychology, Maslow's hierarchy, the whole deal, he said, what a man can be, he must be. I love that. What you can be, you must be. There is so much in you that could be unleashed and unlocked. And then he said, this need we call self-actualization. And so, guys, I wonder what it would look like to find your purpose. The third thing is this: self-sabotage ends when self-discipline begins. Now, guys, I didn't want to talk about this. I thought about taking it off because it's not very popular. But you know what? This is crazy to me. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to determine as a man what the priorities for your life are. And I saw this statistic the other day, and it just blew my mind that by age 21, boys average 14,000 hours of gaming. Do you know how long it takes to get a bachelor's degree? It takes about 6,000 hours. So we've got boys with freaking master's degrees in gaming, right? Now, I'm not trying to judge. Actually, it's none of my business what you do or who you do it with. But we talk about, issues that men have today with porn, and we talk about the problem that I'm getting as a man, my dopamine hit from video games and from online pornography, rather than exercise, rather than diet, rather than providing and caring for my family. How many with me? Wow. And you're normal. And so if you get your dopamine hit there, rather than with your beautiful wife or your partner or your kids or your job or through learning and development or through building that business or whatever, you are training your brain to suck. That's what you're training your brain to do. It's horrible. The beautiful thing about your brain is you have this wonderful thing called neuroplasticity. Look at the person beside you and say, you got neuroplasticity. So, hey, yeah. I mean, you might say, well, I was raised in this environment where, man, I did 14,000 hours of gaming or did whatever. The Alberta Health Services tells us that the average child in Alberta is first exposed to porn by the age of 11. Wow. That's Alberta Health Services. Okay? Now, I think they're probably inaccurate. It might even be earlier than that. But it's at least 11. And so what am I saying? What I'm saying is, you and I, as men, we are visual. So of course we respond to video games. We respond to porn. We respond to those things, not because we're evil or horrible. Stop the shame. It's not about that. It's just recognizing that dopamine hit will not satisfy your life and it won't help you fulfill your purpose. Are you still with me? Yeah. Doesn't make you a bad guy. It just means that you're literally wasting your life, your creative potential. When I lost a bunch of weight, about 40 pounds, about 3.5 years ago, what it was so cool because I've studied so much psychology and neuroscience over the last decade, it was so cool to sort of watch myself rewire my neural pathways. So the things that used to inspire me and pull me, the cheap dopamigenic sort of hits, no longer have any appeal for me anymore. And people say, man, why do you run every day? This morning, I'm running. Why? Because I need it for my mental health. That dopamine hit gives me everything I need. But you know what it takes, guys? I'll tell you what it does. It takes this. But I don't feel like it. Well, get over it. You don't feel like it. We got to stop thinking about feelings and placing them as the God of your life. You still love me.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, that was weak. I got one guy who loves me. Thanks, Teddy. I appreciate it. But anyway, Jim Rohn said, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. So you got your goal, it's out here, and then accomplishment is where you're at. So there's always a gap, right, between what I hope there is, between what we want and between where we are. And the gap that is closed by this wonderful thing called discipline. I saw this post today. And, you know, I was thinking about Alex Ramosi. I don't know how many of you follow him. But he just said, you know, big shout out to any of you who might be working on a Saturday. A lot of people don't have to work on Saturdays, but for those of you who do, big shout out. Because the only way we can accomplish our purpose is by self-discipline. How many of you agree with that?
Yeah.
You know, Plato said, for a man to conquer himself is the first and noblest of all victories. Let me go ahead and give you one more. So the first thing that we talked about is mattering, self-worth. That's what crushes self-sabotage. Second thing we talked about was meaning, having a sense of purpose. The third thing we talked about was mastery. And this is, you have to master yourself. This isn't mastering, you know, people. It's actually mastering yourself. If I can handle myself, I'm going to be fine around other people. But I like this last one, and that is mature relationships. You know, one of the things I've noticed as guys, and it's not just guys, girls do this too, believe me. As a coach, I've had literally thousands of them in my office over the years. And it's kind of like we settle for relationships that hurt us more than they help us. Yeah. Is it okay if I say that? Yeah. So you could call this toxic relationships. You could call this a lack of boundaries. You could call this aiming too low. You could call this whatever you like. But there was a massive shift in my own sort of journey when I started to become really fussy about the people that I chose to really connect myself with. So what's the difference between a relationship and a mature relationship? Well, in a mature relationship, the drama is not the main thing. In a mature relationship, what happens is we leave the drama behind, and now what we're seeking to do is really build each other in a very safe way. Yeah, now, you know, Dr. George Vallant, and this is the question, who are my people? He did the longest running study of mental health in human history. I'm going to tell you what he said in just a moment. But did you know that 63% of 18 to 34-year-old Canadian men experience considerable loneliness and isolation? And, you know, I don't blame them for that. Because, you know, it's kind of crazy. Like, how many of you have noticed? Like, I'm out there running every day. Dun, 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 dun. And I look over at the bus that's driving by. Literally everybody on the bus is staring at their phone. You know, I just turned 50. And so half of my life, I actually lived without these things. And it's so weird for someone who's only been raised in this to recognize, oh, there's a human being sitting beside me on the bus. Like back in the day, we used to have this thing called a conversation. How many of you remember this thing called conversations? Any of you guys remember those things, right? And it's like, well, I don't need a conversation with you because I'm getting my dopamine hit that the conversation could give me from here. And it's, again, it's the cheap one. It's not the authentic, heart-centered type conversation. It's like, oh, this person liked my post. Oh, this person shared. Oh, this person did this. Oh, that person said this. It's so cheap. It's so shallow. And then we look at sort of the political discourse. We wonder why there's so much division. And we wonder why there's so much anger and so much conflict. It's because you and I were built and born for relationships. You were born for it. You know, as a matter of fact, George Vallant, he did the longest running study of mental health that's ever been done. Okay, so you're not going to see this at your doctor's office. Unfortunately, all they have is a prescription pad. But he said the only thing that really matters in life is how hot your wife is. The only thing that really matters in life is how much money you make, how many degrees you get. What did he say? He said the only thing that really matters in life are your relationships with other people. And I just feel that some of you you're looking for a cure. And I know because I've been looking for cures at times in my life. And you might not get a cure here today. But if you can tap into mature relationships, now what you have is a template for beginning to move forward. You know, like I wish, man, we had some pill or something to help guys. But here's what I've discovered in my own life. The only thing that has really worked for me is constant, regular connection with men who got my back. You know why? Because there's something in you that can only be healed by men. You know, somebody once told me, they said, oh, I hate white men. Anyone ever heard that, you know? You know, all the all the dicks in the world, they're all white men. And at first I thought, like, I looked at my skin color. The good news is I'm not actually white, I'm basically pink, you know what I'm saying? So that worked out well. I'm actually wasn't offended, but to be honest, I thought about it, and then I thought, you know what? Actually, the only people who've really hurt me have been white men too. It's actually amazing when a woman is broken, they often will hurt others, but not destructively. It's like almost a cry for help. Now, I know some women can be destructive, absolutely. But even according to psychological research, there's far fewer as a percentage of the population, women who are psychotic than men. Men tend to get psychotic much quicker than women. And so when a man is hurting, what does he do? He destroys. For a woman, it's like a cry for help. Like if I've hurt my wife, she's like, well, you can make your own dinner tonight. like that's the extent of my punishment, right? But when a man is hurt, first time I got thrown against the wall was by a grown man when I was 3 years old. It's a completely different scale. You see, hurt men actually go out and hurt, but the only thing that can really heal you is healthy relationships with men. I know that a lot of guys, they've been hurt by men, and all they do is look for that woman, sort of almost like a surrogate mother or somebody who's going to finally heal the depths of my heart. And it's like that, guys, that's okay, but that's weird, like psychologically. You got to find healthy men who can help you heal. Right? You gotta find men who can see you, who can hear you, who understand you, who don't judge you, but who will also call you higher. That's safety is not, oh yeah, man, keep that self-destructive behavior going. You go, bro. That's not safety. Imagine you're driving off a bridge, it's not safe if Levi's not like, hey man, change your trajectory. And so guys, I wanna give you a couple of minutes to reflect on what your takeaways from Levi today and Brad and myself have been. And so Brad, come on back. Or you got the microphone. Just sort of speak. But how many think it's time to end this all time? Anybody?
Yeah.
And definitely guys online, if you want to comment as well, we'd love to hear from you. Just wave at me if you do, or somebody in the room. Go ahead. Yeah, okay, Alex, come on up, Brad, and we'll put your microphone near the speaker. Go ahead, Alex.
Can you guys hear me all right? All right, cool. Yeah, so just, Abe, I want to touch on things that you covered in your speech regarding self-worth and self-discipline. Now, of course, everything that you covered is absolutely on point, but these two especially really stuck out to me just because when I was growing up as a kid, I completely lacked any type of self-worth. I didn't feel like I was valuable. I didn't feel like I mattered at all. And that was one of the things that really hindered my ability to go forward and get the things that I want, achieve my goals, and all of those things. And it wasn't until I started treating myself better and realizing that I had worth. And I can't quite even, explain to you how or when that came about. I think it was just over time. I slowly just started recognizing that there was something special about me. And so I slowly began to develop more discipline in my life. And I noticed that the more disciplined I become, whether it was like exercising, eating healthy, taking care of myself mentally by reading, all of these other things, that it really bolstered my self-confidence and my self-worth and just how I felt about myself. And it became this upward spiral. And so I just wanted to highlight those things in your speech because I think those are absolutely critical, whether you're a man or a woman, to just overcoming self-sabotage and really creating a life that matters.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it, man. Great shares. Okay. Anyone else in the room? Go ahead. Self-discipline, self-worth. Yeah, Danny, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'll stand up for you guys, so you can see how tall I am. Giant. When you're talking about the importance of connections and relationships, it made me think about one of my friends who's like best friend, and he was dealing with some mental health issues, and he was at the psych ward, and he was really struggling. He got diagnosed with bipolar and manic, I believe it was, and so it's very severe. And luckily I was there for him, and I was a good friend of him, and I was at the hospital visiting him and stuff like that. And I just remember, because I didn't see him for a while, and then eventually I saw him again a couple years later, and he actually got out of that mental state. He was able to overcome that. And then he actually came and he told me, and he said, "Hey, Denny, I just wanted to say that I thank you, because I actually thought about how strong you are, and because of all the experiences that I've had to go through, and I won't go into detail about that, but he was able to use me as a vehicle to, because he had that connection with me, he was able to overcome those challenges." So that really resonated with me about the importance of connections that you have with other human beings. So I just want to say thanks again, Abe, for running this, because it's really amazing what you're doing here.
Awesome, what all of you guys are doing, thank you, and connections are critical. So let's go to Mac, and then to Eddie.
Mine's gonna kind of be like a little mix of Abe, Brad, Levi, so just bear with me, try to follow along. Actually, Abe, there was a video you shared a couple weeks ago or something about fatherlessness. And I think a lot of us have like no relationship with our fathers and men in our life, and how important places like this are. Getting around healthy relationships matter, because I was surrounded by unhealthy relationships. I had no father, I had no healthy relationships with men, and I had a shopping cart that I just pushed aside. I emptied the whole cart. I put my mother aside, my brother, every relationship that I had, I threw aside, because that shopping cart was not working for me anymore. That took a lot of discipline. But to put things back in that shopping cart took even more discipline. Because I let my past define me. I could push the cart aside, but there were still some roots that were in there. And I let myself be defined. Put men in your life, whether it's your father, whether it's men in this room. If you don't have a father, find someone in this room, a coach. It is so important to have those healthy relationships.
Right on, man.
Thank you very much, guys.
So good, thanks, Mac, great share. Eddie.
Thank you, just to understand, and thank you, Pastor Abe and Brad, Pastor Brad and Levi. I just want to share a little bit about my story and how all the three speakers really spoke into my life today. For some months ago, I just lost my job, and the immediate response is bitterness. And the response is to have all the negativity, to either have self-pity and have all the excuses to do things against someone. But then instead of going that route, I will say I chose what Pastor Abe said. The end of self-sabotage start with self-discovery.
Right.
And for me, I had to reflect on, even to be better, I said, I'm in a better place. Let me reflect what are my new discovery to set my path and my new life. And it's not easy just to be by yourself, you being the head of the house, and have the strength to still have a laugh with your family and let them feel comfortable and not be afraid and not scared. It takes the boldness and the kind of fortitude in mentally to even go and play a game with a friend and say, you know what? I have issues, but I still have joy. And as Pastor Brad said, when we go through issues in life, you can talk it out or talk it out. Mm-hmm. And I decided to take the route of going on my knees and praying to God. Because the day that I was laid off, I had prayed before leaving the house. I always pray before I leave the house to go to work. And when I got to the office, I can tell you I'm one of the senior most person in my office. And when they called me and said, today's the last, I said, okay. And my first response was, God, did I pray for this? I took it in good faith and I said, God, you know why and what you're doing. Take lead. You know, I wasn't too bitter. And guess what? Within a couple of days, the same office people were calling me. They couldn't believe this is going on. I said, "No, what? Just hold your breath. I know what God is doing." Why I'm trying to express this is, and Levi said, you set goals that are achievable and things that will motivate you to be consistent. And I think over the period, I have discovered a new path in my life. And guess what? I feel more satisfied than just being in a job, just going to a job to earn a living. But even though I've set a new priority, a new path, I see the future coming, and I think God being on my side, I'll have a different testimony sooner than later. But what I'm trying to say is, all the speakers' topics kind of confirm my own kind of thinking. Sometimes you need that third force to bounce to you, whatever you've been thinking. And I've been going through that process, and sometimes my kids will see me, I need my space. I go in my own closet to sleep, reflect, and pray. And over that period, I've realized that I come out stronger. I always come out and say, you know what? We'll get through this.
Thanks.
And so thank you very much.
Thanks,
Levi.
Eddie.
Thank you, Pastor Fred.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, one more.
Yeah, I'm gonna do things. Love everything you said there. That was incredible. I really relate to a lot of that. For me, it's a key takeaway between Abe and Levi. I'm sorry, Brad showed up late today, so I'm sure yours was a kick-ass speech as well. For me, it's really around something that Levi said that was, is my fear more important than somebody's freedom? And then the affirmation around the importance of relationships, even yours. And how I bridge those two in my life is, when you think about going into an important meeting or a conversation that you feel anxious about or just unsure about, and you kind of ask yourself, you know, what's at stake? Like, what do I stand to lose? But instead ask yourself, what's not at stake? What's not at stake? The love of my friends, that thing that I do every day that keeps me going, that I love to do, with spending time with friends or watching a movie or just getting up and going to the gym and crushing it or not crushing it or just showing up. What's not at stake? And what you realize what's going to happen eventually is you're going to rely more on those intrinsic values that are going to carry you forwards. And when you go into those uncomfortable situations or situations that invoke anxiety and may make you paralyzed, you'll feel very empowered, and you'll feel like this thing is not as important as my other why and my other me and the value that I bring to myself. So for me, that was like just a really strong connection between the two themes and the affirmation, the importance behind the relationships, because when you go into those situations and you're feeling like everything's spinning and you're at a loss of words, things like this brotherhood and the relationships that you hold are going to carry you a lot further. And so that's the why for me. Thank you.
Excellent, I appreciate that. So guys, thanks for being here today. And definitely, if you are in need of support or help, like you've heard, I think many times, just feel free to reach out and, chat with somebody here. And I don't think necessarily we have all the answers. I mean, maybe somebody in the room does, but I think for sure you'll find that you're not alone. And ultimately, I think that the relationships that you surround yourself with will do more for you or not than anything else that you have. And so get around a group of healthy guys, make sure you stay there, fight the battle, and stop the self-sabotage. Our next men's breakfast won't be until February of 2024. It's hard to believe. It's like almost December. I would think that's crazy, And then when we get into January, there's so many other things going on, I'm sure, for you guys too. So just be watching for that. And I'm gonna get y'all to stand up. Can y'all stand up here? And give a high five to all the guys at your table. Tell them they look great, and thank you for being here. And guys, we'll see you next time. And all of you guys online, thank you so much, okay? Take care.
Thanks, sir. I'm shocked it took me this long to come up. I enjoyed it far more than I thought I was going to, but yeah, I'll be here. Thank you so much. Sounds good. And when's you do? Growing and growing, eh?
It's gonna be 4 kids, man. What's up with
Well,
that, eh?
If I don't talk to you before, Merry Christmas and wish all the best to you and your family,
Yeah.
and I hope it's a happy and healthy pregnancy.
And you too, man, and say hi to Aaron for me, okay?
I will for sure. Thank you.
Okay, bless